Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero. I had the distinct pleasure today of meeting Anerae VeShaugn Brown, the subject of today's show. He makes a living as an entertainer, and to listen to his lyrics, you might not immediately compare him to Brett Weinstein or Jordan Peterson, and indeed his education is vastly different from those two formally schooled thinkers. But I think you'll find in this interview that there are important similarities between these men. Their unapologetic candor, their sincere respect, not just for immutable truth, but for the process of discovery and for understanding others and for moving humanity forward. And there's a precision in language that I really appreciate from all three. Anyway, you can catch him on Facebook and Twitter at Official X-Raided, and his YouTube channel is Anerae VeShaugn. And you can buy music, sweatshirts, hoodies, and baseball caps, all of which are pretty dope, at AneraeVeShaugn.com. He's got shows coming up, including one right here in San Francisco on January 12th, and lectures all over the place. You should go to them. I hope you enjoy this show as much as I enjoyed getting to know Anerae VeShaugn.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Bryce
This
Vine.
is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick
This
Marotta.
is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
This is Dr. Bob Greenberg.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is Jon Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner. This is Anerae VeShaugn, also known as X-Raided, and you're listening to the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with Jon Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
That's right. Anerae VeShaugn, the rapper known as X-Raided, has give or take 30 years putting his thoughts to the beat.
Yep.
Even among the rappers of his generation, he's always possessed an uncommon ability to articulate relatable emotions. And if you're evolving, that's a different thing when you're in your 40s than it is when you're in your teens.
Indeed.
He spent 26 of those 30-plus years in the state prison system, having been convicted of the 1992 murder of Patricia Harris, an incident that took place when he was 17 years old. In those 26 years incarcerated, he recorded 12 albums and ran the gamut of emotional states from Walking the Line, Everywhere He Served Time, to stages of enlightenment, contrition, sense of responsibility, and a drive to empower others to seek and communicate the truth. Having been released just 3 months ago, that's what he's articulating now. In his new album, The Execution of X-Raided, he's killing off a character that he used as a mask and exposing his true self, Anerae VeShaugn Brown. The name his mama gave him.
Yep.
He's gone from thug life to hug life. That's not me being clever. I'm using your words, Anerae. I'm honored to have you on the show, man. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a pleasure, man.
Man, so you have a very unique evolution as a human being.
Wow.
And I'm happy that the culture allows us to see the story as it is unfolded. And I sure wish it was a whole lot more comfortable for you. But in terms of your ability to contribute to the enlightenment of humanity, you went through a thing and you had the wherewithal to capture it in all of its naked truth from the very beginning when you were a teenager in the streets of Sacramento.
Yep.
Into the system that took you for a ride that is now unconstitutional.
Yep.
For a young man to have to go through.
Yep.
So first of all, props for evolving as a human being.
Thank you very much.
And for never letting your humanity be robbed of you in that environment.
Man, yeah.
How do you do it?
They say the mother of all invention is necessity.
That's right.
I think it was, my choices were I was going to succeed or fail. And in that environment, failure meant you were going to die.
Yeah.
And so I was not willing to do that. I was not willing to subject my family to that. I was not willing to fail my victim's family, the state, the people who had invested in me. I felt like I had a duty to people to grow. And so when we talk about growth, the only way to grow is to struggle. There's pain in a struggle and in growth. You know, and the dog is getting teeth, it hurts. The gums bleed. The baby's getting teeth, it hurts.
Yeah.
When your bones are growing, it hurts. And so I started understanding that pain was going to be a part of the process. And then when I could acknowledge it, it allowed me to be closer to the truth and reality. Whatever I really felt, I was willing to feel it all the way because it was real.
Man.
And I was better. So why be in denial, people chasing drugs or using different things as crutches and self-medication so they could feel something other than what the reality was that they were facing. And I started saying I would rather deal with pain that's real and address it and actually treat the illness than to medicate a symptom and still be suffering from the illness. And that was the choice I made.
That's a difficult choice for anybody to make. But when the choice is made while you're incarcerated, that's a very extreme circumstance to make that decision, because this is a conscious decision and it was not made lightly or immediately.
Yep.
Right? So at what point during your incarceration, and by the way, so for our listeners, I'm not going to explore the story of your incarceration to great detail. Vlad did that on Vlad TV, and everybody should go back and listen to that interview. But one of the things that really intrigued me about you, and one of the reasons that I couldn't wait to get to you, man, was, I like Vlad and I love the culture and what he does for it. So I check him out. But man, when he threw up a bullshit question, you weren't afraid to say, "Nah, this is stupid. We ain't going down this road." Yeah. And I thought, you know what, man, that's true. And you didn't do it in a way that was disrespectful or, you didn't have to grandstand to do it. You were just like, "Nope, not here. Let's go."
Yeah.
Let's really go. And so there's a couple hours of interview there, and it's good, and everybody should go back and listen to it. But our listeners, they're going to say, "Oh, yeah, of course. He came to his senses probably at some point when he, they locked him up." No, this took time.
It did. It was an evolution. It was a legitimate metamorphosis. And the way that I remember listening when Kendrick Lamar did To Pimp a Butterfly, this poem at the end, where he talked about the talent and pimping that talent and being in the community and being somebody that stood out in the community and having all those forces against you as you went about trying to pimp your talent, as he was saying. And I started thinking about it in those terms, and expounded on it. A butterfly got to go, a caterpillar goes into a chrysalis in order to become a butterfly.
Right.
And what I learned about that when I studied it in science was that if you cracked open a chrysalis for the butterfly, even if it was fully a butterfly already,
right,
it wouldn't be able to fly, because the way it builds the strength to support its body weight is the struggle out of the chrysalis. It has to crack the chrysalis. It has to crack it open, fight out of it, burst its way out of it, and that's where the strength comes from to fly.
That's its workout.
That's its workout. That's
the
workout.
In order to survive, once it comes out, it has to endure the process completely.
Yep.
And if it comes out early, it's not going to make it.
And I wouldn't have made it either if I came out early.
Man.
I wasn't going to make it, and I'm conscious of that. Like all the different opportunities I had for failure, or where I was, where I thought I could potentially succeed if I do this appeal. Can I do A, B, C, or D? How much money can you throw at something? If one of those circumstances had been rewarded, I would have been damaging to myself and to the community, because I didn't have the strength to survive what I was going to experience. And so the universe in its infinite wisdom put me through trials and stresses and fights to make sure that I understood the gamut of what my emotional responses are. Most people could go their whole lives and never know what fear is, or the other side of fear, what courage is. The absence of fear versus the existence of fear, and the perseverance in the face of it. That's the real definition of courage, which I learned on 9/11, watching firemen enter buildings, having watched the building fall. So you can't say they weren't afraid, but they went on anyway and did their job anyway, because the desire to be of service was superior to their fear. And I started having to understand that I have to possess that kind of fortitude in the face of anything. Being of service was superior to failure. So my family required that I educated myself. If the homies didn't like that, I was going to school. I'm not going to hang out on this yard with y'all for 4 hours every morning, bro. I got to go to school.
Yeah.
I'm going to work out, and then I'm gone. And that's all it's going to be. If that's a fight, let's fight, because that's a superior fight. It was going to be a fight anyway. If I stayed out there with them, we was going to end up fighting with some riffraff that's hanging out on the yard.
Yeah.
So I'm going to fight something. I may as well fight for my education. I started doing that. People respected it, man. That dude, he's serious. He gonna get his degree, and they started claiming that as their own. Man, the homie gonna go get it. We gonna graduate. We passed the GED. They started speaking like that as I kept going and making sure that I had the right to do it, but I had to fight for that.
Right.
And it kept going. When I started going to groups, people, oh, man, this fool think he getting out of prison, he going to group. Like, I'm not going to life for group because I think I'm getting out of prison. I'm going to life for group because I want to be educated about what my experience is. If I went to life for group and it was, you ain't never going home, at least I would have learned that from my peers who were out actually in pursuit of their freedom. And that's what I did. But that was a fight. What you doing tonight, man? We hanging out on the yard. It's the homie's birthday. We going to drink and smoke and we going to eat something. Like, bro, I got to go to group.
I will say that I've seen this type of unfolding in a lot of circumstances that were a lot less difficult, a lot less trying, a lot easier to identify. When somebody says, say somebody who comes from privilege, they have their own set of struggles, maybe pressures from their parents, and that's a whole different thing. Mm-hmm. And some people overcome that and they do great and they become captains of industry. But you look at that struggle, and I'm not belittling it, because everybody's individual thing is different. But to be able to say, man, this doesn't have stressors
right
like your struggle has had over the long term, like your struggle has had, that particular circumstance wants to defeat you.
Yes.
It wants to kill you.
It does.
And if it doesn't succeed at killing you, it certainly wants to break you and make you subordinate.
It does.
And so to be able to start off and in your own mind be able to digest this experience and say, no, I'm going to capture this and I'm going to understand this all the way through. I don't know who does that, man.
Oh, they got some names out there, and that's when it gets tricky. Like Nelson Mandela had to do it.
He certainly did.
Martin Luther King went to prison.
Yeah.
Cesar Chavez went and had to do a hunger strike so his people could be respected.
Yeah.
Like all the different, there's people who had to do it, but like who are you to name yourself amongst those people? So you run into the Kanye West conundrum. If I tell you I'm a genius, you're going to tell me I'm an egomaniac. But if I don't tell you I'm a genius, you'll take my word for granted. So there's a balance to be had in having humility. But 26 years, 7 months, and 24 days, I did just a little bit less time than Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
And I communicate the same enlightenment that he communicated, because there's a universal truth to the pursuit of development of the human being. And so these conversations are going to overlap and reflect certain aspects that are similar, if not the same, because it's the truth. So we could be on other sides of the world contemplating something true with the absence of ego and come to the same conclusion, which is why we got hieroglyphics on other sides of the world saying the same stuff.
Yeah.
Because these people were contemplating without boundaries and with the pursuit of truth, without ego. And so I came to a lot of conclusions that were validated by what I read from Nelson Mandela.
In other parts of humanity throughout other parts of time.
Solomon, his writings, the Ecclesiastes did a lot for me to read that.
Man.
What his struggle was, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, Chronicle, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles. That did a lot for me. And then reading Nelson Mandela's works gave me a lot of courage. Malcolm X's work.
Yeah.
People, Detroit Red had to go through a metamorphosis and became Malcolm X. But Malcolm X went through a metamorphosis and became Al-Haj Malik Shabazz, who ultimately died for refuting everything that Malcolm X had stood for.
Man.
But nobody knows who Al-Haj Malik Shabazz is.
Yeah.
They only know Malcolm X, Malcolm X, Malcolm X.
Yeah.
And so I kind of ran into that, where I went through a metamorphosis as a gang member to someone who wanted to be a citizen. I've been a rapper, X-Raided, and then to Anerae VeShaugn. And now people are like, who's Anerae VeShaugn? Where's X-Raided at?
Well, we're about to find out.
Yes, we are.
Yeah. So is that your intention? Is to spend the duration of your career looking at the world through a completely different, more evolved lens? And, are you really executing X-Raided?
Yeah, we did the execution. It's a beautiful album, and it talks about that journey. I've been having, I got the San Francisco chief of police asking me to do mentorship programs for the kids that he's responsible for in his community. X-Raided is not the person that needs to go speak.
Yeah.
That's not something even that I would have been worthy of or eligible to go to.
Yep.
With a character, with a mask on my face. Because now it's a hypocrisy in that. I'm going to tell you not to wear a mask. I'm going to tell you how to evolve. But I'm standing here with remnants of evolution still attached to myself that I don't want to let go of. And so it became necessary for me. I got to speak at San Diego State University. One of my mentors is a director of Project Rebound from San Diego State University, Alan Mobley. I can't speak to his kids in character. We're examining that character's experience and the fracture in my psychology and how I had to heal. So you can't do that as the fracture. And so I realized it was necessary for me to grow and expand beyond being stuck in character. And Jay-Z's book helped with that and Decoded, where he talked about Jay-Z as a character, that other worlds of art allow for that, people to have their character. But they're not how many people in Hollywood are what their name is in Hollywood. Yeah. They all got a real name, and then they have their Hollywood name. I kind of ran into that where I felt like I want my life to be integrated in a way where I go speak to these kids, I go to the studio, I go do a show, it's all the same. I sit down with you, we have an interview, it's all the same. I don't got to play no character, forget what role I'm in when I'm dealing with my family. You know, to be conscious of every stage as I go, what the duties are. Right. Because now that we completed the metamorphosis and I'm free and all that faith and work was rewarded, the worst mistake to make would be to get out here and advocate for something other than what got me my freedom. Yeah. That would be a huge mistake.
The thing that got you your freedom, which was your evolution, your shedding of the whatever it was that character was made of. Yep. Man.
It had to happen.
Yeah. I think I want to say it was Martin Scorsese who said, you know, your job, if you are performing for me, is to show up on time, hit your mark, and tell the truth. And that's something, seems like some profound shit to tell an actor to do. But really, it's about what life is. And I mean, your ability to say, hey, it took me 26 years in there to fully evolve into this. Did it take you 26 years? If it had been 24 years, would it have been different? Did you need those last 2, 4, 6 years? Hey, this is Jon Leon Guerrero, co-host of the Break It Down Show and fellow producer here at Lions Rock Productions. And I'm proud to announce our newest show coming in January. It's called Justice. Season 1 is going to be a deep dive into some of the cases I personally worked on as a licensed private investigator, and you'll get a unique view into the criminal justice system that may just challenge some of your personal notions about how it should work and open your eyes in ways you never imagined. So keep your ears open for Justice, a brand new podcast coming in January from Lions Rock Productions to iTunes, Stitcher, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Did it take you 26 years? If it had been 24 years, would it have been different? Did you need those last 2, 4, 6 years?
My 24th year was probably the completion. Okay. The 24th year, almost to the day, March 17th, I went to board.
On the 21st anniversary of your incarceration?
On the 24th anniversary of my... Exactly.
Okay.
3 days before my 24th anniversary. So I was arrested on March 19th. Okay. So my 24th year was March 19th, 2016. And I went to my first board that day. Okay. On the 16th, I believe. And I got to meet the victim's family. I had to sit and listen. You can't interrupt them. It's not a back and forth exchange. Right. I had to tolerate that, take it. And I don't mean tolerate it in the sense of to humor somebody. I mean, I had to literally be able to survive that. I had to sit there and listen to that. Yeah. There was no getting up and walking away. There's no room for facial expressions that are disrespectful. This is a moment now where I say the only thing I could offer is to be present. Yeah. And to absorb that and
hopefully have some contrition.
There's no hopefully involved in that. That was a fact of the matter.
Well, let me ask you this. So during that experience, you're not only taking it, you're being observed for how you take it.
You are.
I want to break our listeners off with Penal Code Section 3051, which allowed Anerae a youth offender parole hearing is what you're talking about. It's a hearing before the Board of Parole for the purpose of reviewing the parole suitability of any prisoner who was convicted of a controlling offense that was committed before the person had attained 18 years of age. In your case, you were sentenced 31 years to life, which we know the life part by then had become unconstitutional,
Mm-hmm.
but you were eligible for a youth offender parole hearing because it was your 24th anniversary,
Right.
entering into your 25th year of incarceration.
Exactly.
So, well, I'm glad they did that shit on time.
Me too.
Man.
Me too. Lonnie Hancock drafted it. Jerry Brown supported it. And they got it through. And that was a huge thing in terms of fate. So all the guys, whoever said he's going to group, he thinks he's going home, he's so cute. All those guys who hated, I changed. You know what happened? I used to, like you asked me a question, it's a legit question. Did it take all 26 years? I probably started changing my life sincerely in my 11th year.
Okay.
That was when I couldn't take it anymore internally.
Was there a specific turning point incident?
There was an incident. I was used to, I would show up at a yard. Everybody would celebrate that I was there. The Crips are always happy to have me show up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I show up, and we going to eat now. The homies here, because I can finance everything. So this guy has an ability to bring whatever into the facility. I can actually afford to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the people that would take it where it was going to go. So my arrival usually impacted the environment and the economy. I was always the person who boosted the economy.
Right.
And so it was feast. It was time to feast. People who didn't have clothes got clothes. They had shoes, they got shoes. Everybody, they didn't get visits, they got visits. I was able to alter people's lives in subtle ways that weren't as expensive as someone would think. But there came a point where
But certainly meaningful.
Yes, definitely meaningful when you got 3 soups on your shelf, no deodorant, toothpaste, and you ain't heard from your family in 5 years.
Yeah.
And then I show up, and now you got 4 of everything, 3 new pairs of shit, and they're willing to die over it when it comes to if something was to happen to me. And I went through that. But there came a point where I was under investigation so much that it was not sustainable for me to continue to do that.
Okay.
So I get off a bus, the institution's reading my record,
Uh-huh.
and they can't prove that I had done all this stuff,
Right.
but they knew it.
But they see the trail.
They can see it. We live in a fish tank, so
Yeah.
if all your fish start swimming a different way because you drop one fish in the tank, you're going to know this fish is altering the way that our fish swim.
Right.
And so they would lock me up in the hole. And so now I'm transferred somewhere. My property's wherever the hell it's at. I'm in a dungeon, like Count of Monte Cristo. And I would do that 4 months here, get on the bus. They said, we don't want him here. Send me somewhere else. And the next institution would do that. Mm-hmm. And so I'd be on the road in ASEG, don't know where my property is. My family's coming to see me. I would go through that for 9 months out of the year. Between 2000, I'd say that started up in 1999.
Okay.
Between 1999 and 2002, I went through that non-stop. I spent more time locked up involuntarily than I did on the yard, on any yard, because they were like, this dude he's a threat to the safety and security of the institution. Yeah. They specifically said a threat to the safety and security of the institution jeopardizes the safety and security of himself and others. They check that box and lock me up.
Yeah.
And 90-day review. We're still investigating whether or not you can come out here to this yard.
Now, in the beginning of your incarceration, you were a youth, and your influence in there, you had some OGs tell you, okay, man, you got to bulk up, you got to do this.
Yep.
And you made the decision, I'm going to walk that line, I'm going to go out in this yard, and I wish a motherfucker would.
Yeah. And
that's how you were living at that time. So when that box got checked and you were spending all that time bouncing around, that risk to the safety and security of the institution, how true was it?
Oh, it was true.
Yeah.
It was true. I call it the baby rattlesnake stage. I wasn't conscious that baby rattlesnakes and adult rattlesnakes have the same purity of venom. A rattlesnake is born with as pure venom as it'll ever have in its lifetime, but it doesn't know it. They don't know how to bite once. They bite, they'll chew on you and give you everything they got because that's what they think they got to do. An adult rattlesnake, no, he bites the prey, he kicks back, and
watches
then
it happen,
follows it, waits for it to paralyze, and then it has a meal. I didn't know how to do that. And so I was a baby
You
rattlesnake.
kept after it.
I bit everything.
Yeah.
You
And
guys
kept chewing.
The homie got some dope over here, make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
You could get this into the institution, let's go, make it happen. Stuff I didn't even need because it was the utilization of the power and influence that was my addiction.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the use of the power. Why? Because it was gangster.
Yeah.
Why'd you get that? Because it was gangster. Why pay this CO to do? Because it was gangster. Why'd I try and get the district attorney to? Because it was gangster.
Right.
And so that was all I needed. That's G. And I would do it because I was a baby rattlesnake. So it was true I was a threat to the safety and security institution, but then I changed my life.
Yeah.
I changed the women that were in my life.
What was the incident?
Eventually, I'm locked up over and over and over and over. And so my daughter, my wife brought my daughter to see me, and I was behind the glass. And they didn't know I was going to be behind the glass that weekend. They didn't know I would be behind the glass. That's like if you put in administrative segregation unit.
Yeah.
And so she was okay for a little while, but eventually she started kind of like observe. Like,
How old was she?
she was probably 9 or 10. 9.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's old enough.
it's old enough.
So
Yeah.
9 or 10, and she's seeing her daddy behind the glass.
Behind the glass, and she lost it. She lost it, and so my girl had to take her out.
Yeah.
She just was screaming for me and beating the glass, and that was devastating. And so that final incident happened while I was in she was 9, 2003. They gave me, for no reason now, I had already changed my life, but I had to learn this part. Behavior is like a ship in the water. And if you turn that ship around, there's the wake. So the water's still going to ripple, even though the boat is going the other way.
Right.
And so until those waves dissipate, someone looking still sees disturbance in the water. And that's what my life was like. I had changed my life internally, and for those who knew me, knew, but I hadn't made an effort to demonstrate that to someone outside because I didn't change my life for them.
Right.
So it didn't matter if the cops thought I changed my life. Administration knew. That didn't matter to me. And so I had changed my life, but every time something happened that was similar to something I would have done, they locked me up for it.
Right.
And so I could have nothing to do with it. I'm minding my business, and here they come. You know, some dude got busted with ABC or D. They find a way to put my name in that, lock me up, and say you're up for transfer. Can't prove that I did it, but I end up with all these confidential informants in my file saying X gave him the money, X is financing the drug ring. So this final time when I figured out that there was some hatred, like they hated me, was when they locked me up and gave me a conspiracy to distribute a controlled substance within an institution, but they found no drugs.
Right.
No drugs at all existed. I had nothing to do with the incident, wasn't present at the incident. Just one guy they got to say that I had.
That you conspired.
And just one dude said it. But by law, without possession, you can't have distribution without possession. You got to distribute what? So nothing existed, but they found me guilty. They found me guilty and gave me a 9-month shoe term and sat me in that hole, and I had to write it up. I had to study the rules and put all those rules in an appeal and demonstrate why they were wrong. I had to write to the ACLU, the prison law office in San Francisco. One of my brothers, Mike Shanahan, had to send me the prisoner's rights handbook. I literally had to learn my rights, constitutional rights, the California Code of Regulations, and demonstrate that what they did was not legal.
Yeah.
And then they hurry up, bring my appeal, grant my appeal for something other than what I appealed, so they don't have to say that these people were wrong. Throw the whole thing out, but made me do the term anyway. And then transferred me to Calipatria State Prison, which was one of the worst institutions you could go to at the time, with an adverse transfer. So I get off the bus at this institution with all this stuff in my record, even though I had won the appeal.
Yeah.
And I got a counselor, a Hispanic lady, and she was furious that they did that to me. She got on the phone while I was still in the room with her, and called them and said, "Why would you send me this case like this, knowing that this stuff isn't supposed to be in this file? Why do I have to do your work?" She just was so furious, and she filed a complaint on him for that.
How did it get to that where she understood exactly what? I mean, did you just must have got off the bus and walked into her office when she said, "Okay, I know about you," and you went, "Oh, wait a minute. Let me tell you."
Well, it's mandatory. You get assigned to a counselor whenever you transfer anywhere. So all 100 and something thousand currently incarcerated persons have a correctional counselor. So I was just a part of her case record. And evidently this wasn't, she just was used to it. She had seen this type of stuff and didn't appreciate it. And she had took her job. I ran into a lot of people as I changed my life who took their job because they wanted to be of service.
Okay.
So you have these people with criminology degrees and, you know, all of that stuff, criminal justice majors, and they would see what had started happening to me and they would be offended by it because it was the demonstration of everything wrong with the justice system. It was everything they intended to combat in their lives. They would say, how can you give him a distribution of a controlled substance with no possession? And then the person that enforced it on me, I had a record of him telling someone else why they could not have a shoe term imposed. Like the guy next door to me got his shoe term overturned. They refused to impose it, but imposed mine, the same body. Imposed mine, and he gave me the paper. It was like, hey, bro, I'm leaving the hole tomorrow. I was like, what? I read it, and they let him go, but kept me there. And so I understood it was hate, and she understood it was hate, and she made him clean my file out. So that gave me a little bit, that prevented me from saying fuck the CDCR, fuck the system.
Yeah.
Because I realized that would have meant fuck her too.
Right.
And she was a good person.
Uh-huh.
And so once I started understanding that, some of these human beings are not good people. Just like some people working at McDonald's aren't good people.
Yeah.
And some of them are phenomenal people. So it's just a job. And jobs have people who aren't good people sometimes. And I was able to rationalize that. But what I saw was that my boat, the water was still disturbed. So now I got to tell the guys when I show up, I can't help you with that. Hey, man, I got a lick, bro. I can get 4 ounces of Coke, but I need $2,000. I can't give you that, bro. So everybody's celebrating. Oh, shit, they just let X out the hole. He coming to the yard. And then I hit the yard.
The economy anymore.
I can't change the economy anymore, and that makes you vulnerable now.
Yeah.
Because if the same people who used to be excited and advocating for you now are saying
they don't have that same reason to advocate.
They're grumbling.
Yeah.
They're grumbling now because their shelves are empty, and mine are not. Even though I can't help you,
right?
I can't help you.
But they see that you still continue to help yourself.
I can help myself.
Wow.
Man, I can actually help them, but not the way they want me to help them.
The way they need you to help them is not necessarily all that appealing.
Right.
I mean, everybody's evolution is different, and some people don't get there.
Yep.
So in your 11th year, you begin to figure it out and start to unravel it, and meanwhile, you're still able to look within yourself. What are you seeing? Do you see that there's a transformation that's taking place that's meaningful and inspiring to yourself? Because, man, when you're in the hole, you get a lot of time to think, you get a lot of time to read, you get a lot of time. I mean, clearly you used your time.
I did. That shoe term from February of 2003 to September, almost early October of 2003, I changed every single aspect of my life. Everything. I disassociated with people who were not valuable to my life experience or their own. So I came up with a personal constitution, literally wrote a personal constitution based on the writings of RFK, Mandela, Martin Luther King, Solomon, Jesus, Muhammad. I found everywhere I could find intelligent instruction, I regurgitated that in my own way. What good is the respect of someone whose respect is worthless? That became one of my things because you're going to respect me. That was always the thing.
Right.
And I started realizing, well, what the fuck is the value of the respect?
Yeah.
What's the purpose? And so what purpose can a person serve in your life who has no purpose? So I started, what does this person exist for? I started trying to understand that because whatever they exist for, that's all they can offer. You exist for violence. You exist for drugs and alcohol, getting high, hurting people. That's all you got to offer me is those things.
Yeah.
Because that's all you offer yourself. So I had to start telling myself, back away from that. Unrealistic expectations or opportunities for disappointment. I started coming up with all these different things that I can, and I put it on the wall and would read it every day and start transforming my psychology and allowing that to be the first thoughts I had because they were on top every day.
Holy shit. That's huge, man. That is huge. I don't think really practically anybody, I was going to say not many people, but practically nobody is that reflective with that sort of purpose. You know what I mean? It's like you can think about shit and you can go, well, I'm trying not to fuck with him anymore or whatever. But to be able to say, I need to step so far back from myself that I can compose a personal constitution of what my meaningful values are.
Mm-hmm.
How many tenets were on this personal constitution?
I started out with 10 because I wanted to write my own,
Your
10,
own
commandments.
10 commandments.
That's what that was in the beginning. And I ended up with 24 of them.
Okay.
I had 24.
So you had 14 amendments.
Yep. 10 commandments and 14 amendments. Yep.
So, okay. So you've described 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Which other ones do you see now that you've had time to live with this personal constitution? I won't ask you to rank them, but do you have any intention of sharing this personal constitution?
I do.
Are you writing your book?
Yeah, it's going to be in my book.
Okay.
In that period of time where I wrote it, I'm going to do it in real time. But, as I go, I'll put it where it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But one of them, the one that was most valuable for me was know the difference between perception and reality.
Okay.
I read Plato's Cave, the allegory of the cave, and it woke my game up on everything I think is true isn't true just because I thought it. Because there was a time where if I would create a scenario in my brain, these dudes, they're plotting on me. I could see them looking. And then now that I've thought that, I'm going to have an emotional response to what I just made up. So now it's fuck these fools. I'm going to do A, B, C, or D. I now am creating a scenario off of something that didn't exist. And one of my teachers helped me see it. He told me a short parable that I never forgot, and it informed my constitution. And that was, a father comes home and sees his son sleeping in the room. The father takes his coat off and hangs it on the crack of the door and puts his hat on there, on the edge of the door. He observes his son, turns the light off, and walks out of the room. His son wakes up, sees the hat and coat on the door, and thinks it's a man standing in his room and starts screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Father runs in the room and turns on the light. Child sees that there's only a coat and a hat and that everything is okay. However, the fear was real. Experienced real fear for a fake reason. And that's how I was able to understand that I could experience hate, anger, fear, love, sadness, all these things for fake reasons. And so I had to understand the difference between what I perceived and what was really occurring, and that it was dangerous if I didn't do it because it was a life and death circumstance. And so understanding the difference between perception and reality ended up on my constitution.
Man, the profundity of that is pretty heavy because a lot of people, right now we got the Me Too movement going on, and a lot of that has to do with perception being reality. That's the saying. Perception is reality. But it's not.
It's not.
It needs to be sorted out. And it needs to be sorted out from the standpoint that a misperception can create a reality.
Indeed.
And that it needs to be acknowledged and conquered and dealt with and all of that shit. Is this a discussion that you've had and explored with people who come to you saying, you got a new record coming out. Let's talk about your new record.
Yeah. I think fortunately for me, my footprint is starting to be in a way where, it identifies that this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
So most of the people reaching out are like celebrating
they understand what they're trying to get to.
Yeah, and they're celebrating the opportunity to have a conversation of substance. I think there was a vacuum in the culture. It was empty. And people were like, they missed it.
Yeah.
Listening to this ridiculous music. People aren't espousing what they really believe. They're just doing what they think is going to work because they're desperate to make a living. Some of them are desperate to accumulate more. It's greed.
Yeah.
But for a lot of reasons, there's not a lot of food in the music for thought anymore. It used to be you could have a meal in hip hop if you listen to what people had to say, and now
the culture was a teenager.
Yeah.
In every sense, and it had to figure itself out. It went through some growing pains. It was doing some dumb shit.
Yep.
Just like teenagers do.
Yep.
So, in the absence of your freedom, you continued to create. You never let go.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me why.
Oh man.
Was that for an economic necessity?
No. If I had never made another record, like Cedric Singleton, my own people, no one was going to let me suffer in there like that. Never. I was never going to be hungry. I was never not going, I got my homes, all that stuff. I was never going to have that problem. My family.
Yeah.
It was really based on a discovery I made. Before I became an honest person, I was already an honest artist. So I would speak something other than what I personally believed because I didn't have a constitution. I didn't know what I believed. I believed what I perceived. And
that needed to be developed.
It did. And I espoused whatever. This is one of my other ones. Is I put probably wants a cracker on my list because it reminded me, don't be a parrot. Principles are superior to game. So I got principles versus game. A person with game is going to say whatever they have to say to achieve their desired end. Whatever they want, they do that to girls. They'll tell them anything just so it could get what they want. But once they got it, that's it, because they didn't believe what they said.
Yeah.
But if you have principles, you're going to do and say what you believe no matter who you talk to.
Yep.
And those people could say, yeah, you know what, man, Anerae's not going to like A, B, C, or D. And other people in the room could say that's true because they know what your principles are. He's not going for that. And then I walk up and they'll say, hey, man, this, and this is going on. Yeah, we can't do that for these reasons. And they'll say, we told you. Because they know what the principles are. There was a time in my life where that wasn't true. I was still a game spitter. I was still thought having game and being in the game was relevant to anything, like it meant anything. And so I would sometimes communicate something and conversationally that wasn't true, that I may not even have believed because the moment called for that to be said.
Yeah.
But when I sat down to write a song, I never did that.
That was the place where you were honest with.
That was my first honest location where I expressed anything, and I was doing it for me.
The easiest place to put up a front, the easiest place to be dishonest, especially when you're a teenager, is there.
Yep.
In your art, because your art, you're allowed to paint any picture you want, say anything you think your audience wants to hear. So the mark of an artist, and I say that with a capital A, the mark of an artist is the ability to quiet the noise and get to the truth and express the truth in a way that allows for clarity in your audience. Your audience is, like you said, there could be the situation where, you could go in and say what needs to be said to create an outcome, or you can treat people the way they really need to be treated, not the way they want to be treated.
Yep.
So,
service.
Yeah.
Service became superior to me than selfish desires and things of that nature. So as an artist, one selfish thing I had going, I wanted to be known as one of the best rappers to ever live. I was determined to have that. I wanted it. And what I started seeing from the culture was, to obtain it, you had to be able to tell a story. People had to relate to you. These are things, I'm reading album reviews. This person got a bad review because they didn't have stories. This person got a bad review because they didn't have metaphor similes. This person was lacking in sincere authenticity. And so I ended up with these things that would build the bionic rapper. And so, why is Tupac so appreciated? Why is Scarface so appreciated? Why was Nas so appreciated? It was the sincerity in the art that made other rappers say they were the best rappers, the sincerity.
Yeah. And
I started wanting to be the king of that because I wanted to be the best rapper alive.
At what point did you have that mission? Because, you're talking about when you started off, you were a teenager. The ability to have that kind of clarity, it's, of course, strong for an artist, but for a kid, that's a gift. Did you realize that you saw differently than everybody else? Was that what set you apart as a rapper in Sacramento? Because, we can all see sort of around us. The easy thing to do is, well, this person's having success. Let me emulate what they're doing to have success. But you were able to say, no, I have a different gift.
Yep.
I'm going to get past wherever that person is. That success is great. That's theirs. I'm going to get past that because I have this. Or was it just I don't know what it is, but it's pouring out of me. I got to just let it out.
It was a little bit of both. But I had Brother Lynch Young, who artistically was light years ahead of a lot of people. And so he was somebody who motivated me to have a little bit more honesty.
Yeah.
He was like the ultimate emo rapper. He talked about everything he felt and everything he thought. And so that kind of pushed me as an artist.
Okay. But he also had the the chops, the building blocks, the construction, because that's the easiest thing to identify when you look at somebody to admire their work, is that they know how to do it. So it was a combination, I imagine, of, man, that shit is dope, but also there's something behind that, and I want to tap into my own version of that.
Yeah, because I had already pushed past dope.
Yeah.
We knew we were dope.
Right.
So we wasn't hunting for that anymore. Like, Ice Cube was dope.
Yeah.
But he was also believable. I believed Ice Cube.
Yeah.
For better and for worse. And I believed Scarface for better and for worse. And so there came this, they going to believe me. I want to be believed and understood. So clarity, emoting, enunciation, all those things became...
vocabulary.
All that became necessary. Not using vulgarities for language.
Yeah.
Using them for emphasis,
for punctuation,
exclamation marks, but not for language.
Wow.
Weaknesses in other rappers. This guy cusses every line.
Yeah.
This guy, I just paid somebody to do clean versions on one of my songs, and he bleeped 3 words and said, "Here you go." Right? The easiest money he had earned all week, because I just don't write like that. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
Language is superior, and you see the greats doing that. So that was really what it was. I did Exorcist, and I got reviews. I'm in Playboy magazine.
Yeah.
And so that was like, whoa.
Yeah, that's
a
heavy.
lot of people are paying attention, and then saying, Shakur started writing me. I got a letter from Tukey Williams.
Yeah.
They start saying, hey, when this many people listening to you, you got a responsibility to say something worthy of being heard.
Right.
So between 96 and 99, it's night and day between Exorcist to Unforgiven. A huge leap in emotional availability. And I think my trial has something to do with that. Like, Deuce Father Life is this one moment of clarity on the Exorcist album where I wrote about my real life. It may be the only song on that record that's not a fantastical song. Strictly about what I was really going through, and I never really went back after that. So that one song happens on that album, and then Unforgiven finally comes out, and people can hear how Deuce Father Life evolved into Mama's Pride and Joy, Land of the Lost, Misanthropy, where I started questioning the government, social conditions, things like that. How did I get in this circumstance? Vengeance is Mine, Hold On. I started questioning my own life, retrospect, introspect. All those different things became a part of my writings because I was pursuing truths from sources other than myself. I was looking for answers from God. A lot of those songs are talking to God. A lot of them.
Man.
And it's me having conversations with God about why. It's like Job. Like, why is my life like this? Why was I in these circumstances? Why did my parents unite? They could have raised me together, taught me to be fair and do right. Like, I ended up writing that stuff on paper because I was really wondering it. Like, what in the hell am I doing here with these dudes? I walk back in that cell sometimes and just be like, what in the hell was that? Just walk to a chow hall and listen to all the conversations and hear them all.
Right.
Because I've been in the studio so much that I could hear every sound.
Yeah.
And so I can, just like you could hear a hi-hat over here, a drum, a guitar, a bass over here, I could hear this conversation, and it would be in my head like the Borg.
Yeah. You were tuned in differently, and
yeah,
it was a lot.
And I would go, I'd almost like auditory overload. So I go back to my cell, and I need to just decompress. Like, I gonna need the TV on.
Yeah.
And just maybe listen to some instrumentals and just write that stuff out of my system. And so it was therapy, really. I ended up with so many songs because I wasn't writing to record songs. I didn't even know I would ever make another album after Exorcist. When I got to prison, why would I believe that? So I was writing because I write.
You're right, because there was an opportunity that seemingly would never come around again.
Yep.
But that didn't matter. You
Nope.
needed it out.
I needed it out.
Wow.
Had to be written.
Man. Well, I will say this, man. Your journey is truly the hero's journey.
Wow.
We got our eyes on you. You have a view of humanity that not a lot of people get to see. Not a lot of people who grow up in different environments will ever have to experience what you had to experience. But you're able to touch something about human psychology that I think will benefit millions of people.
Wow.
And I hope millions of people get to it.
Thank you, man.
I could talk to you all day, but I'm sensitive for your time because I know you got places to go.
Yeah, I got a demanding parole officer who deserves her rights. I'm going to give her her rights because she could take mine.
Yeah. How's that going? Is that process navigable?
It is. It's
Okay.
something that can be, moved through.
Yeah.
It just requires.
I'm sure she also
patience.
understands your attentiveness and your intentions.
She does, and she's about the best one I've been able to interact with. Again, you find somebody who pursued the career because they believed in
For
it.
service.
And so she gets a hold of me, and it's like, man, you're a parole officer's dream.
Yeah.
I've been out for 92 days. I got my own place. I own my house. I got my own car. I own my company.
Yeah.
I'm being of service to the community, speaking at high schools, speaking at colleges. And she's, meanwhile, got to chase sex offenders all over the Bay Area.
Yeah.
To keep them away from schools and things like that, right?
You're making her job easy.
I make her job easy. But she has, I think in the beginning, the system has a cookie cutter for people who get out of prison. And so it's stamp it. If your limbs don't fit in the cookie cutter, they'd rather hack them off than change the cookie cutter.
Right.
So you're going to be a star cookie or you're going to lose some limbs. So you better tuck yourself in to fit,
Right.
or it's all bad. And so it took a while for them to figure out, whoa, this is a little different
Yeah.
than what we're used to, and maybe it requires a little bit kind of different perspective on some of the stuff, because I think some of the stuff I do, if not for the service and the people, the politicians and the community advisors and things like that I probably wouldn't be able to do. So I'm conscious. It's been 92 days, and I hit the ground running very, very, very fast, but 92 days, man, after 26 years. So I'm empathetic to her.
Yeah.
I'm asking for a lot. I want to tour. I got to do shows. People want to do interviews. It's unusual for them to go through that. Like, who was the last one? Like, Robert Downey Jr. came home. Me. Who else do we really got from California that came home from prison?
And
the
needed
media,
to do things.
Yeah, and doing stuff immediately, and the media cared. Like,
Yeah.
imagine if Robert Downey Jr. had to go to the parole board and say, I'm going to get out and have 5 of the top 10 highest grossing movies in the history of the earth. They would have sent him back to his cell.
Man, they would have hacked off his limbs in that
They'd
cookie
have hacked
cutter
his limbs
again.
off. Yep. If he
Wow.
had to go through that, that's what would have happened to him.
Yeah.
And so now here he is, Iron Man, Avengers, Sherlock Holmes. All of that stuff was true, and he knew all of that already, that's what his capacity was. He just didn't have to convince anybody of it. Came home with that ability to go and do what he had to do. And so I'm sitting here trying to tell people, hey, I think I'm going to be able to positively impact the psychology of my culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to do that with a straight face and tolerate it when they scoff.
They'll, one by one, they'll stop scoffing.
They will. I was reading First Chronicles, Second Chronicles, one of those two. David dies. Prior to his death, he asked God for specific things for his son. For his service, God says, I'm going to do that for you. So after his death, he goes to Solomon and tells him, your father was my friend, a great man, and he asked me to bless you. So I'm here to ask you, what can I do for you? And he said, give me the wisdom to lead your people. Give me the wisdom to lead your people. And God says, because you didn't ask for riches and wealth, I'm going to give you that and the wisdom to lead your people. And so I started understanding knowledge is superior to dollars, because knowledge will allow you to make the dollars. So richness is, for me, love, appreciation, unity, having the ability to network with people in a way where we could be of service to others. And by building that, you end up with what they call brand loyalty. That happens as a ramification of doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so now here it is where people can't even really speak negatively about me online anymore, because the fans won't allow it. They won't tolerate it because of love. Not because I'm so tough. Not because I'm so hardcore respected. I'm a killer. He went through this or that. None of that stuff. It's because they love the message, and they love what it means for their children and what it means for their hope for themselves and their own future with their personal struggles. And that is a superior currency than a dollar, man, by a mile. I've read it all morning. I've been going back and forth with people on the Fresh Out in the comments. They like, is this really you? I'm like, yeah, it's me, man. Thank you for I answered every single comment that was worthy of any kind of love. If it was any kind of love in it or positivity, I acknowledge those people. And for that reason, they're ferocious about my personal peace. They're very conscious of it. And they say, hey, man, he has a right to grow. Who are you? Because I tell them all the time, there's more of us. And by us, the misfits, the outcasts, the downtrodden, it's more of us than there are of these exceptional idiots. It's a lot of exceptional idiots and they'll say, you're exceptional. I've been told that. You're so exceptional. And I'll say, no, I'm not. I'm the rule. I can introduce you to other men like me. I know where they are. They're my friends. They're my brothers. It's a lot of us. We just don't all look like what they think.
Mm-hmm.
Those kids going to Comic-Con, they just want to have a good time. They're in the entertainment, but people feel like they need to be ostracized. The nerds and the quote-unquote dorks. Those are some of my closest friends now because they live their life the right way. I have no idea how to live my life correctly. I'm out here a young duckling. I'm a butterfly fresh out of his chrysalis.
That's right.
And I'm looking at other butterflies, beautiful, flying around, saying, which way am I supposed to fly? Mm-hmm. I know how to fly now, but where am I supposed to go? You know, and the ones telling me how to do it are the regular Joes with jobs. They got credit scores. This is how you use a debit card. I had to learn all of that. Mm-hmm. Didn't no gangsters teach me that. They don't got bank accounts. I'm trying to do verses for them, and they ask me for them. Hey, man, what's your info? They don't send it to my girlfriend. Can't even do PayPals. They can't help me. I got to tell them, hey, bro, you need to set up a bank account. This is how you do it. Where'd I learn that from? Squares.
Yeah.
All those people, and those are the people I'm home to say, that's who's cool. The ones who went to school, in spite of all of the pressure that we put on them to join us in idiocy and go through these unnecessary struggles we created, those are the people that I love, man. And I'm going to shows, people saying they're bringing their whole family, bought tickets for their children. They feel they could bring their kids to my show.
Man,
that's
magical right there.
Yeah, man, I got a duty. I'm not Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
You know, and Hannah Montana's not even Hannah Montana no more. So I'm like, well, damn, I got to make sure I got a show that they can actually experience.
Yeah.
I got a duty to this guy who feels that his wife and his kids should come to my show. And so, yeah, I really appreciate you observing that. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. This was a very joyful experience for me, man. Honestly, an opportunity to be able to really delve into some of this stuff with somebody who is intelligent and accomplished in his own right. Because you sit there like you're not what you are, but you can't know what you know and have the perspectives you have without a struggle of your own. And maybe one day you'll share that with me.
Man, I hope so. I hope this is the beginning of a lot of things. I'm going to just say, man, anything that I can do, you know, when your tour starts, anything like that, any kind of publicity, any opportunity to explore this for my own selfish reasons, for my growth, because I can't even tell you what I learned. I introduced you at the beginning of the show as a rapper. What I really should introduce you as is a writer, an intellectual, and a philosopher.
Thank you, sir.
Anerae VeShaugn. Thank you so much.
Indeed. Thank you, brother.